Hey friends, Karen Marie, professional psychic and astrologer here. For those of you who follow me regularly, you'll know that I've been MIA for a while. That's because I've been going through some major internal changes. It's all good, no health crises or anything like that. I did shave my head to be reflective of the massive change that I've gone through internally. And sometimes one just needs to step away from the world to do your inner transformational work. So that's what's been going on for me. But I had to hop on today and talk about what's going on right now with the transits. Everywhere I go, people have been asking me what the F is going on. So we are between eclipses right now. Most of you know this anyway. We had a lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces a couple weeks ago, and we're headed round the bend into a new moon solar eclipse that will be exact this Sunday, September 21st at 2:54 p.m. Austin, Texas time. That's when it's exact. So this period between eclipses can feel super duper intensive. It's like everyone is on steroids. If you've been out in the world, you've probably experienced people are been more rageful. That's what I've experienced personally. Just volatile, right? So the planet Uranus is the great awakener. It's full of sudden shocks and surprises. An eclipse is usually very Uranian in that surprising events will happen. It major events in people's lives, like important people will come into your life during eclipse period and exit your life as well around eclipses. People are born, people are died. Traditionally, it was looked at as a time that forecasted when kings would be born or die around eclipses. Like there's the end of a reign around eclipses. Um, Eclipses are like we're having the solar eclipse will be the moon will be eclipsing the sun. So there's something that's been hidden that comes to our consciousness if you're paying attention during eclipses. There's also times that it just speeds up around eclipses. Things happen more quickly. We can feel eclipses like 6 weeks prior. So you may already have been feeling this energy even before the first eclipse. And then we'll feel the eclipse energy 6 months or more after the eclipses. So they're transformational, transitional times. This one is particularly potent because it will be happening at 29 degrees of Virgo. 29 degrees of any sign is the anaretic or the testing degree. So the sun is moving through Virgo right now and has been. It's at 25 degrees of Virgo today as I'm recording this. Virgo represents the sixth house in the zodiac wheel. So this is the house of our daily life, our daily groove, our health, how we tend our physical body, like routines that we do every day. It's our daily work that we do, it's service to others. So these issues, these areas of our life have been highlighted as the moon moves through Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which rules our thinking, our communication with others, technology. So these things can also be highlighted when any planet is moving through Virgo. So there's been this focus on our thoughts. How are we thinking about ourselves? How are we thinking about the world? How is our communication going on? Have we been spending extra time online with social media? Virgo rules social media. How is our health? Are we listening to our own inner voice and tending to our health the way we should? Our daily groove with our food, our exercise, our sleep. Virgo can also be about attending to the details of life, getting things organized, and again, helping others, being of service to others. Is that in balance? A lot of times people will help other people before they'll help themselves. So this new moon coming around the bend, new moons are always a time of new beginnings, of initiating new things. The fact that this is happening around 29 degrees, this anaretic and testing degree of Virgo is super potent and super powerful. 0 degree, the very next degree would be 0 degrees of Libra. And 0 degrees of all the cardinal signs is the world axis. So anytime there's planets or points around this world axis, again, 0 degrees of all the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. If you have planets or points within 2 or 3 degrees before that sign or into that sign, you've got planets or points on this world axis as well. Could indicate that you were here to bring a message to the world, to the globe itself, that you have a global mission. And when important events happen on this global axis, it's especially powerful for the entire planet. So this 29 degree Virgo is 1 degree off the global axis. So it really is on the global axis. So something major is foretelling some major transformation and change on the whole planet. So right now, all the outer planets are retrograde, right? Saturn has just retrograded back into Pisces. It had bumped up into Aries earlier this year. It's gone back into Pisces. It'll go back to 25 degrees of Pisces before it stations direct. That happens in November, is when it's stationed at the very end of November. Saturn will station direct. And then February 14th of 2026, Saturn moves back into Aries, starting a whole new 30-year cycle. Now, we got a little bit of preview of coming attractions. Again, it takes Saturn 30 years to get around the entire zodiac. So starting a new cycle at 0 degrees of Aries is powerful. And it did already bump up into Aries. So now it's gone back into Pisces. We're wrapping up the lessons that we've been learning for the last 30 years. So there's this bringing things to a completion, to an ending, and not just personally, but for everyone. The outer planets affect everyone. They're collective in their influence, whereas the inner planets are more personal. But again, any planet that's going over your own natal planet, the planets where they were on the moment you were born, your natal chart, or the points. Points would be, your ascendant, your descendant, your midheaven, your IC. These are all like points. So if you've got important planets or points on this global axis or around this important event, you're personally affected. Sometimes we can go through major transformational experiences astrologically and you don't feel anything. Other times you're like, what the F? So my rising sign is 0 degrees of Libra. So I've been feeling personally affected. My midheaven is 0 degrees of Cancer. My Mercury's at 1 degree of Aries. So these planets and points have been affecting me personally. And I feel like that's one of the reasons I had to step away and like, what am I doing here on this planet? What is my mission? What am I, where am I supposed to be putting my energies? So getting that all in balance and putting time and attention to my own spiritual practices and just getting with me. So Saturn and Neptune both crept up into Aries this year already. Saturn is now back into Pisces. Right now, today, it's at 28 degrees of Pisces. So it is still on this global axis. Neptune went up into Aries. It's going to go back into Pisces as well. By February 20th of 2026, both Saturn and Neptune will be exactly conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries. So this is super powerful and potent. And just like the sun and moon, when they come together, create a new moon, when two planets come together, it's like a new moon in their cycle, right? And since it takes Saturn 30 years to get around the zodiac, it's starting a new 30-year cycle with Neptune right there. And Neptune takes 164 years to get around the entire zodiac. So that it's huge that these two are going to be conjunct exactly at 0 degrees of Aries again. So we're already feeling the period before a new moon is considered the dark moon. So we're kind of in that period right now. It can be real intensive. We can't see as well. We can't see as clearly. There's a bigger energy of a dark moon happening right now because we'll be heading into this exact conjunction of Saturn and Neptune February 20th. So that's also sort of a backdrop of what's going on. With all the outer planets retrograde, anytime a planet goes retrograde, personal or outer, it's a time of going within and doing self reflection and looking at the things that that planet represents. So I'm talking about Saturn and Neptune. Saturn represents our structures, our boundaries, how we set up, how we form things. It's the teacher in our life. It can be the nun with the ruler or the piano teacher with the ruler slapping your knuckles. If you're not behaving well, Saturn can feel punitive. Um, but Saturn rewards when you're putting in hard work and effort. So if you're doing your work, if you're doing your transformational energy, Saturn comes around and is like, well done. Here's your reward. So again, Saturn in these last degrees of Pisces, Pisces is the last sign of the entire zodiac. So it is where we wrap up things, conclude things. So there's a lot of relationships that are ending right now because Saturn is at this last degree of Pisces. People leaving their jobs, changing careers, like enough of this. It's also Pisces is duality. It's two fish. So one fish is very psychic, it's very spiritual, it's enlightened, it's connected to all that is. It has this bigger scope and awareness of what they're doing on this planet, and they're on a spiritual journey. They're connected to their inner voice, their psychic self, which is the voice of the inner wisdom that we have within. I believe everyone is psychic, so our intuition, when we listen to it and follow it, is the voice of our higher self. And that's our GPS system, right? And what gets in the way is the logical, rational mind, everything we've been programmed, our emotions, our fears, our doubts, our insecurities. Neptune represents that connection with our psychic abilities and the divine. So that there's a structuring, a restructuring of our life around clearing out the space to connect with our higher self, with the divine, this mystical essence that permeates the universe, that has intelligence and compassion and joy attached to it. So these lessons in Pisces are about, are you plugging in spiritually? Are you plugging into source? Do you see the best in yourself? Are you tapped into your Buddha nature? I'm a Buddhist, so I call my higher self my Buddha nature. If you're a Christian, you can call that your Christ self, your higher self, your divine self, the part of you that continues on after we put our bodies down. That's our soul, our higher self, our spiritual energy. The other fish in Pisces is caught up in addiction, illusion, delusion, wanting to check out, fuzzy thinking. So with the Saturn in these last degrees of Pisces, we can all be looking within, like how much is of our addictive nature is running our show. How much of it is our higher self, our intuition that is guiding our show. Like it's time to put a stop to the things that are pulling us off track, out of balance, out of rhythm in our life. So Saturn's over here in the last degrees of the whole zodiac. And then this new moon is going to be in opposition of Saturn. So these issues with Saturn and the boundaries and spiritual connection and psychic connection is deeply woven in to this new moon solar eclipse. So it's an awakening for many folks on the planet. So Uranus is also retrograde. It has just moved into Gemini. That's big because it takes Uranus 7 to 8 years to move through a sign, like 64 to get around the entire zodiac. So, no, 84. So, unless you're like 85 or even older, you have to be older than that to even remember the last time Uranus was in Gemini. It will too back into Taurus here and we'll then move forward into Gemini. So we're getting a preview of coming attractions with these outer planets moving into new signs and then backing back in to finish up what they were doing before. So some interesting facts with these outer planets. So Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. It takes Pluto 248, 250 years, rounding it out, to get around the entire zodiac. So none of us alive have experienced Pluto in Aquarius. Now it went back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius all last year. So now it's retrograde, but it will stay in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So Pluto is about death and transformation, power and control issues, deep dark secrets being revealed. Wherever Pluto is in your birth chart is where you came in to do transformational work. If you're doing your mission, it's where deep life and death things happen. So Aquarius represents the people. It's the 11th house in the zodiac wheel. It's our groups, our networks. It's humanity vibing together. So the power in Pluto is with the people. I mean, when Pluto's in Aquarius, the power is with the people. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in the late 1700s, where we had both the French and the American revolutions. Again, when Pluto goes retrograde, it's more of an internal transformation that's going on. But the other thing that's going on that's very unique and striking right now is that Pluto is out of bounds. And without diving too deep into astrology stuff that most people's eyes will cross around, there's an elliptical plane that's projected on out into the world. And planets usually stick within 23 3/4 degrees on the elliptical plane, right? So when a planet goes beyond that, it's considered out of bounds. So it either goes out of bounds to the north of that or to the south of that. The last time that Pluto was out of bounds was in the late 1700s. So it's not something that happens frequently. What is interesting, Pluto went out of bounds at the end of August to the south, right? So listening to an astrologer who's done some deep diving into Pluto out of bounds to the north and out of bounds to the south. In her research, out of bounds to the north meant that the dictatorial regimes took over. When Pluto went out of bounds to the south, revolutions and the people took over. So there's a powerful potency both with Pluto being in Aquarius and Pluto being out of bounds to the south. Now it'll be out of bounds. Went out of bounds at the end of August. It'll be out of bounds to the end of November. And it'll do that every year for the next 10 years. Again, this is so transformational because it hasn't happened since, 1778 to 1788 was the last time that Pluto was out of bounds. Now, and after this 10-year cycle of it going out of bounds like every fall, it won't be out of bounds again for 3,000 years. Like this is like some crazy stuff. But during this next 10 years, we will see the regimes topple all over the globe. The powers of Babel, I'm going to call that. The men with the power, the money that have built up the empires, those will all be toppling over this next 10 years, guaranteed, right? So it may look kind of scary out there in the world right now with those in power with money and greed running things, and that's top-down power over paradigms. That's not what's going to be. Ultimately, it will be the power will be dispersed amongst the people. And so that's exciting. But it could be some cray-cray because Pluto, last time it was at Aquarius, American French revolutions, it was also out of bounds during that time of the American French revolutions to the south. Uranus going into Gemini, the last time it was out of bounds, last time it was in Gemini was in 1941, World War II. Neptune, the last time it was in Aries, the mid 1800s, there was civil war here in this. So we've got 3 outer planets that are moving into signs that in history have meant major wars going on. So, I mean, I'm not predicting war. It's kind of inevitable. There's at least an internal war going. There's internal transformation. There's internal revolutions going on. I think it's going to get more intense before it gets better, but the people will rise up. The astrology is clear, and it's not predictive. It's any more than if a weatherman tells you there is 90% chance of thunderstorms today. Okay, so does it mean lightning's going to strike you? No. Is it a good day to plan a picnic? Also, no. Like, so it can be volatile things. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to affect you personally, but it's going to be going down. Like, if it's thundering and raining and lightning, like, you may want to stay inside. And so there's that kind of volatile times that we're headed into. In, like I said, the planets are like, if you look at where they've been in history, when there's been revolutionary, transformational, warring times, we're right there again. And again, they're all retrograde right now, but they start one at a time going direct. Um, and then into next year, they're all moving forward again, and we're moving into this whole new chapter paradigm. So, again, new moons are always a great time to set new intentions for the next lunation cycle. With this solar eclipse new moon, it's a great time to be setting your attention for what you want for the next 6 months, particularly in the areas of health, your daily groove, your daily routines, your daily life, your daily work, how you're being of service to others. And since it's right there on the cusp of Libra, this will also be affecting relationships, issues of justice and fairness, right? So these are the areas that are going to be really highlighted. And then, like all the things I was talking about uh, in Pisces, the endings of things, the endings of karmic patterns, the plugging in spiritually, plugging in psychically, uh, calling out your addict self and saying, you can't control the show anymore. Not going to be happening. I'm going to share the chart for the new moon and talk a little bit more in depth about this new moon and what other things are going on here. Okay. Here I've pulled up the chart for the new moon that will be happening on Sunday, the 21st of September at 2:54 p.m. That's here in Austin, Texas, since that's where I am. That's where I pulled the chart. Um, so here we have the moon and the sun together at 29 degrees of Virgo. Again, 29 degrees of any sign is the anaretic or the testing degree, and it can be way more intensive. We have also Mars will be at the anaretic degree of Libra. It's about to move into Scorpio. And we have Saturn here. It's moved back to 28 degrees. We've got Neptune here at 0 degrees. So these are both, again, opposite. So there's, this through line that's super duper intensive. We've got Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius. The outer planets are all really simpatico right now. Pluto and Uranus are trining each other. This is actually, trines are positive aspects. Sextiles are also positive aspects. So we've got this trine between Pluto and Uranus, this new moon, sun, like the next day, the sun moves into Libra. The day after that, we're going to have this grand air trine. And this new moon solar eclipse is part of this grand air trine between what two other planets? Uranus, the great awakener that loves to throw sudden, shocking, unexpected curveballs, and Pluto, the great transformational lord of the underworld. That, I did write down some of the code words for out of bounds, uncontrolled energy, radical change, unrestrained energy, going off script. These are, again, some of the code words for Pluto out of bounds. And again, Pluto is out of bounds right now. It's been since the end of August to the end of November. That same pattern will rinse and repeat every fall for the next 10 years. And then no more for thousands of years will Pluto be out of bounds. So there's some great transformational work going on. And Saturn and Neptune are in a sextile with both Pluto and Uranus. So they're all in harmony with each other. It's like the outer planets are conspiring to work together to help us wake up and do our deep level transformational change, to plug in, to set up our daily grooves and boundaries. Like, that's to me what the overall scenario is happening right now. We'll have Venus move into Virgo. Venus actually moves into Virgo tomorrow. Both the Venus and the moon move into Virgo tomorrow. Mercury, which just moved into Libra this morning, will be trining Pluto. So transformational conversations can be going down today, tomorrow. That's pulled into this whole thing as well. Chiron is also retrograde. The wounded healer is in here in the mix. Jupiter is in Cancer, 21 degrees. It is direct right now. So Jupiter is like, I'm going to bring in positive, nurturing, compassionate energy. So that energy is present if you just consciously plug into it. Also, Jupiter moving through Cancer can be, Jupiter expands things, makes things bigger. Cancer is the mother, it is the nurturer. So we can have childhood issues coming up for us, whether they're positive or negative. We could be healing those wounds. Cancer is the healer. So there's a strong, powerful, benefic energy. Jupiter is considered the great benefic that's coming in here, bringing in beautiful Cancerian energy. We've got the South Node and the North Node, and eclipses always happen close to the South Node and the North Node. We had the full moon lunar eclipse happen close to the North Node, and the North Node points to what we're supposed to be learning right now. And again, there's these Pisces themes that I talked about earlier when I was talking about Saturn and these last degrees of Pisces. The North Node is hammering this in for us as well. Like, are you paying attention? Are you listening to inner spiritual direction and inner guidance? Are you following that? Are you letting your addictive self pull you off track? Are you just getting caught up and checking out? What are you doing? The South Node is what we're releasing, what we're letting go of. So even though this is a new moon, there is something that we're letting go of with this new moon solar eclipse. In Virgo, we could be letting go of critical thinking, being overly perfectionistic. We can be letting go of something that's blocking our best, most optimal health, like giving up sugar or alcohol or drugs or, daily routines where we're, you know, using our time and energy in ways that aren't growing our souls and aren't growing us spiritually. We could be letting go of over helping others, since Virgo is the helper and the healer, like where things are out of balance and we're spending too much time helping other people and not enough time giving ourselves what we need. These are some of the things that we could be looking at with this new moon solar eclipse. Mercury and Libra with at the eclipse, Mars here at this very last. This also will be portending the end of relationships, since Libra is all about relationships. So Mercury just moving into Libra this morning, it'll be like a lot of conversations around relationships, a lot of conversations around justice and fairness. And then Mars is moving through Libra, moving at this solar eclipse is at this Veneretic degree of Libra. And again, so this is bringing about the end of a lot of relationships. Like, enough of this. I'm done with this. On Monday, the day after the eclipse, we have Mars moving into Scorpio. Exactly 12 hours after the eclipse. So it's going to be happening overnight. The eclipse is at 2:54 p.m. Sunday. At 2:54 a.m. Monday morning is when Mars moves into Scorpio. That also can be intensive. The sun will also move into Libra. The fall equinox will be happening the next day. That's also a powerful new beginning point in time, with the energy moving in to relationships, issues of justice and fairness. Venus is the ruler of Libra, so it's also a lot of attention on the arts and beauty and women in particular. And then on Tuesday, the 23rd, the sun will oppose Neptune. So there's this strong, great day for psychic messages to come through. It also can be a day to check out. Neptune can also be like dissolving things, delusion, like getting caught up in fantasy. The sun will also trine Uranus that day. And so that is powerful, transformational energy. Again, people waking up. And then on Wednesday, we have the sun trining Pluto early morning. And then at like 1:04 a.m., the moon will move into Scorpio. And Mars which is in Scorpio, will be squaring Pluto. So Mars squaring off with Pluto when it moves into Scorpio on Wednesday is a powerful ouch. A square is I'll stop sharing here. A square is a contentious relationship. Usually some action is needed or involved. Mars is the god of war. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. So this could show up externally with power struggles, rage coming up. Again, I'm already feeling that out and about in the world because we can feel transits before they happen. We can feel them afterwards. Just because a transit is exact on a certain day, we can definitely feel the effects. Like in this eclipse portal, people are highlighted. Like traditionally, it was national leaders were highlighted, but anyone that's in the spotlight, people come into the spotlight in surprising ways. They can also exit the spotlight in, I mean, we had, right, an assassination this last week, um, not of a person who holds political power, but, in terms of like a podcast and people, lots of millions of people following them. Um, I'm talking about Charlie Kirk, of course. So, but there'll be more. There'll be more people exiting stage left and new people coming onto the stage. And some psychics are predicting the death of world leaders around this eclipse or within 6 months of this eclipse. I don't ever get deaths in my private readings with people. I never get when people are going to die. I don't want to get when people are going to die. I don't get when people are going to be born either. Like I do get when people may be conceiving a soul because I'll pick up on the soul hanging around a person. That's a whole different topic though. So, but the astrology is kind of pointing to major changes on the global front. Again, because this eclipse is on the world axis. So do not be surprised if there are major world leaders or those in the public eye that leave this planet, or new people that come onto the scene. Again, not just around this eclipse exactly, but within the next 6 months. So again, we can feel the reverberations for some time to come. After Wednesday, the 24th, when we have both the sun trining Pluto and Mars squaring Pluto, and the moon moving into Scorpio, that's an intensive day. And again, we may be feeling that residual effect. We feel eclipses for weeks afterwards as well. But then it gets really quiet astrologically. I mean, there are zero major aspects after Wednesday. Like I'm looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the moon moving into different signs and the moon making aspects with different planets, but no planets are majorly affecting any other planets for the rest of the week, even into the following week. Like we have the moon moving into Capricorn and then the moon moving into Aquarius. Then we do have Mercury squaring Jupiter. This is a square that anything squaring Jupiter is not as intensive. It just kind of highlights the energy. It's not as like contentious as Mars or Pluto squaring something. So Mars and Pluto squaring each other on Wednesday post this eclipse and post the fall equinox. We're in for a ride this week, which is why I had to come on heads up. And so what do we do with this intensive energy that's out there? Listening to your own internal guidance about where to be, where not to be, you plugging in, raising your own life condition, your own energy field, so that you're not being batted about by what's going on in the world. My suggestion, turn off the news, stay off of social media as much as possible, at least balance it, put it in its place, plug into things that ground you, plug into praying for the world, praying for world peace, contacting your own inner what today do I feel guided to do is how you walk through transformational times. Sometimes it's hard to figure out the big picture when you're going through such major transformation and change. But what do you want your daily life to look like moving forward? What would be an ideal day? So at the end of the day, when you're crawling in bed, you're like, oh, God, that was a great day. what happens on a day like that? What have you done? You've eaten clean and healthy. You've moved your body. You've meditated or chanted or prayed. You've played an instrument. You've created art. You've talked to people and friends that are uplifting you. You've done meaningful work that you love. You're connected with loved ones. Like, what do you want your daily groove, daily scenario to look like? That's the vision to carry into this new moon solar eclipse. So, blessings to everyone. You want a private reading? Check with me, get on my schedule. We can look at how all these are affecting you personally. So, many blessings and peace.